Is it Dr. Sonja Swiger? Is that right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah. The J is said like a Y. So yeah.
Oh, so it's Sonia.
Yeah.
Dr. Sonja Swiger. All right. Well, listen, this is our first time meeting. So I want to thank you so much. I've been up there to a lot of the things that they put on there, the extension service up there does. And I don't think that we've met before. Is that
I don't
right?
think so either.
Okay.
No.
So I just wanted to maybe have you tell us a little bit about yourself, background, and what you do, and kind of your field of expertise a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'm a livestock veterinary medical extension entomologist, very long title there. So, but what my main role is that obviously I deal with pests that bite animals and humans, and I have a statewide responsibility. So I am kind of more livestock related, and then mosquitoes is kind of how it really splits down. I do a lot of programming, a lot of education for, biting flies.
Okay.
And then I'm in charge of the mosquito outlet side of things. We have all of our great experts on campus, but I do the actual outreach portion of mosquito education.
So one of the things that we got, just to kind of jump in here a little bit, from customers and technicians, is that now that it's been so cold for a week, and I guess this summer we won't have to worry about mosquitoes. I saw that several times in my local Facebook neighborhood, posts, and I saw like more than once, probably twice saw that.
Right.
And just, I thought maybe as the expert, we could talk about that as to why that may or may not be the case. And so I thought maybe could you start sharing a little bit about that?
Well, it would be nice. But the thing is, mosquitoes actually live all over the world except for Antarctica. And we didn't quite meet Antarctica standards just yet. So what it can do is it can delay the population. It can throw them out of sync, so to speak. But there are 85 different species of mosquitoes. And the chances that all 85 were killed off with the 1 week of really cold weather is very slim. So it is a misconception. And I actually remember a few years back, it was really cold one winter and I was standing in the post office and there was a fly in the post office. And all these people were like, oh my gosh, it's so cold. How is there a fly? Well, that's insects. They know how to survive winter. They're not new to winter. We kind of forget that sometimes. Right, they've been doing this a long time. Now, yes, it's different to get it down here, and will that mess up the population? But the same species we have, a lot of the ones we have here, they live up north too. It does throw them off. But for many of the species, they're in the egg stage right now. They haven't even come out for spring. And that's one of the things that kind of helps protect them, is that this happened in what is winter, and they're still in winter zone and not coming out for springtime. Now, I know you guys are further south than I am, but even there, they're still not really getting it. March is really when we start to see them pick up, and in May and June, and as it goes on.
Right. So we here, what we do right now, we've talked about adjusting a little bit, but right now our mosquito services start March. So on Monday, we start those again.
Right.
March through November typically, but we still see mosquitoes, through the year because of the climate here in Houston. It can be it can be January at 70 and then the next week 20 degrees, but and so the mosquitoes you were talking about that primarily are in the egg stage right now, that's the Aedes type mosquito, right? That several years back got a lot of publicity with the Zika virus. Right. They are the ones that typically, the Aedes aegypti, the yellow mosquito, or the house mosquito, that sort of thing, or that they're called that typically, were the ones that were carriers primarily of the Zika virus. They're the ones that are in the egg stage right now. Is that right?
Yes. So Aedes aegypti, the yellow fever mosquito, yes, they're the carriers for dengue fever and Zika virus and chikungunya. Which of course we don't have circulating right now in any parts of Texas and not in Harris County, but they are the ones that can do that. And they overwinter as an egg. And all these eggs are predispositioned to prepare themselves for whatever can happen in that time that they're overwintering. In addition to them, all our floodwater species are either Aedes or Serophora, and they're in the egg stage as well. So all the ones that get laid in the ground, they're sitting there waiting for the rain to show up, and they don't know when that rain's going to come. So they're already set to kind of sit there. And
temperature doesn't have much of an effect on them, right? Like,
not typically. Now you may have a few that don't make it, but not enough that's going to crash the entire population. That just doesn't happen.
Right. I love this part that you put in your blog post. It was the very last sentence, the very last part, because you put on there, short answer, probably won't be a big impact since it was still winter for most insects. If this had come after a spring hatch, then things may have been different. You saw bees at your house just yesterday, and then you say, so it is what it is. Insects are very resilient. And so I thought that was really, it made a lot of sense, right? Because this isn't the first freeze, right, that insects have gone through.
And the only one we're really wondering is the Culex mosquito, the Culex fasciatus, which carries West Nile, because it overwinters as an adult.
Right.
So will there be impact on those? That's something we're probably going to watch, but I don't think we're going to be lucky enough to say there's none this year. But what I'm thinking is we'll do a follow-up. We'll go see what people are finding in a couple of months and if they feel that it really was an impact. But for the most part, we know they're still going to show up when they're supposed to. And again, there may be a little delay. Now I do flies. Flies aren't out in the winter, so they're not impact because they weren't out. If any of the early adults that maybe come out, maybe those got knocked down, but there's just more pupa. They overwinter as pupa, and they're just waiting. So, each species is different. And that's why I kind of wrote that blog post the way it was, is because I don't work with crop pests, and that's a little different. Now, if the crop got killed and there's no food, there's a difference there. But one of my colleagues was out and found aphids the very next day, 2-3 days after the storm. And he said the aphids survived, but the predators, the good insects, the beneficials, died off. So there is going to be probably insects that are harmed by this, but those are not the pest insects, which are the ones that everybody's really asking about now. We see like less butterflies and things of the good stuff, the stuff that people really want around, that there may be some impact on those species because
of kind of the domino effect of food supply interruption or something like that.
And they always seem to be a little more fragile anyways when it comes to survivability. It's like when you apply a pesticide, you always kill the ones you don't want to kill first, and then the ones you're trying to kill are the last to die because they just seem to be a little bit more resilient. So as I said, a little bit more able to survive it. But it's interesting. And actually, another little story I want to tell you, because we had a call yesterday, and we had a couple people. We actually had 90 people that work in mosquito control, and one was from Wichita Falls, and she said that they had a frozen water trough, and yesterday there were mosquito larvae in it.
Really? So that had thawed out? Is that what you're saying?
It was frozen the week before, and it already thawed out, and she found mosquito larvae in it. So.
Oh, wow. Wow. My son, the day, so it's Saturday, like in the storm, the last morning, that Saturday morning, it was still in the 20s kind of here down in Houston. And then it got in the 50s and I think almost even 60s or something like that Saturday. Next day, my son was out playing in the fire pit, at our house, and he comes running in. I was like, what are you doing? Fire's still going. He comes running in. I could tell something's going on. And he's like, I saw a wasp. So already, just even the day after or a few days after, the weather, as it warms up, these insects that were maybe dormant or hanging out are becoming active already, because it's that time, this time of year where it's kind of, it fluctuates, but it's going to continue to get warmer. In a nutshell, you would say, if the question was asked, what sort of an impact did the cold have on the insect population overall, or mosquitoes, if we said in particular? Short answer would be probably not that much. Would I be correct to say?
Yeah, I think it would be a minimal impact. And if it is going to be, it'll be more locational based. Now, where I thought there'd be a bigger concern with what would have impact on would be down south. As you're getting closer to, for you guys, and even further down to the south, to the border, what kind of impact there? Again, that would probably be where you see more current impact, but will that be sustainable impact? That's something we're just not really sure. Just
is it really going to have a dent in the overall population for the whole summer? It just maybe at this time it may delay a few things, but overall we'll still see probably the same robust numbers of mosquitoes as I guess conducive conditions would allow, right? Like
I don't think the mosquitoes will be the ones that we get to see less of. It may be something else, like I said.
Okay.
But there should be a little, if you're going to be, it'll be small impacts. I don't think it's going to be a mass knockdown, which is what most people are thinking. Like you said, your blog post, we're not going to have any mosquitoes this summer. Well, that's nice to think, but that's not what happens.
Right. So if cold, let's just go like maybe this angle. If cold isn't going to have necessarily impact on a mosquito population or a pest population, What sort of thing what does have an impact or could have an impact potentially on a sustained number of mosquitoes that we may see from one year to the next?
Well, a bigger impact is drought. So lack of water is where we really see
Right.
impacts. And even one of my colleagues pointed that out. He said he doesn't think the cold's going to have an impact, but they're drier up in the Panhandle than they've ever been in the last couple of years, and that will have a bigger impact. Because again, while the freeze was lengthy for some of us, it was only a few days to the insects, and it wasn't long enough to kill them all off. They were able to survive for the most part, those that do survive. But when not having food and water, that's a bigger impact on it.
Because the water is where like a breeding ground, so the more water there is, the more they're able to lay eggs, and the insects are pretty resilient, like you said. So the more available resources they are, the more that they'll breed, right? The more that they'll reproduce, and the more food they have, but also more water means more areas to lay eggs, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It prolongs their ability to survive if you have that, if we're talking them. And then for other species, if they're plant eaters, obviously they're, again, based on what they're feeding on. So if there's no water for the plants to grow, then the insects are impacted, and that's a secondary situation.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Because drought, not just breeding ground, but also just available food for them to have. So Dr. Sonja Swiger, with, and your role there at Texas A&M in the entomology department is what exactly?
Livestock veterinary entomologist.
Livestock.
Yeah.
Livestock veterinary entomologist.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you so much, and gave us a lot of great info. And I look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Okay,
we appreciate you.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right.